Next is the Professional Practices Committee. Commissioner Cooney, will you please convene the committee?
I will, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. I now convene the Professional Practices Committee. The committee has two items today. We will announce the public comment period when it's open, and for each agenda item, members of the public who wish to comment will be asked to notify the meeting moderator in the following ways. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember that Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. Individuals who joined the meeting via the US toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling out the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Item 5A is the Division of Professional Practices Workload Report, which is given to us as usual by Gil Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, please begin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be presenting the monthly workload report. Highlights are from the August 2021 statistics. The Commission's dashboard reports on 6 key measurements in line graph form, showing both current year numbers as well as prior year numbers for comparison purposes. The following numbers reflect the August 2021 totals. The total cases are the number of open cases within DPP, including cases in the intake unit, before the Committee of Credentials, pending before the Commission, and at administrative hearing. At the end of August, the total number of cases was 2,118 and well below the pre-COVID normal range of 2,600 to 2,800 cases. Cases opened are generated from reports of misconduct received during the month from all sources, including criminal arrest notices, school district reports, affidavits, and educators who self-report misconduct. In August, we opened 376 cases. Again, that's below the normal range of 400 to 500 cases opened per month. The next 2 graphs are the initial and formal review graphs, which reflect the number of cases reviewed by the Committee of Credentials during its normal 3-day meeting, which is required by statute. As I previously stated, the COC is reviewing fewer initial review cases and will continue to do so over the next few months, which is due to the overall decline of cases. We expect this trend to reverse as schools reopen and credential applications return to normal levels. In August, we closed 316 cases. Those are cases closed by commission action, committee action, or closed by staff, where the commission was given formal delegation of authority. Again, the normal range that we close per month is 400 to 500 cases. AG cases is the last graph and refers to cases in which an educator requests an administrative hearing to challenge the recommendation for discipline by the committee. The commission is represented in these hearings by the Office of the Attorney General, and as of August, there were 164 commission cases assigned to the AG's office. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gonzalez? Let me ask if there are any public speakers for this item. Madam Secretary, do you have any?
We do not have any requests for public comment, Commissioner.
Okay, so we'll go then to the commission and see if there are any comments or questions from commissioners of Mr. Gonzalez or otherwise. I'm not seeing any.
Commissioner De La Torre has his hand up. Commissioner
Oh,
Cunha.
yeah. So I don't have the right screen to there. Now I do. Commissioner De La Torre, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Mr. Gonzalez, I had a question about is there any disaggregated data about these cases?
In terms of?
Ethnicities, credentials?
No, that's data that we don't collect. And my understanding is that we don't have the authority to collect it at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Actually, can I do a follow-up to that?
Of course.
I asked the same question last month and I realized later, could I learn a little bit more about the authority or where we get this data that it's not in our purview to disaggregate?
Mary, have any thoughts on that?
We'd be happy to put some information together for you and share it at a future meeting.
Thank you. That'd be great. Just a little bit more context where we get the data. Mr. Gonzalez does a great job reporting out to us, and I realize in some ways it's not as contextualized as I would for my own understanding. So thank you for that.
Any other commissioners with questions or comments? I'm now looking for virtual hands and not seeing any. This was an information item, item 3A. We have a second item, an annual workload report for the fiscal year 2021, 2020, 2021. Mr. Gonzalez, please proceed.
Okay. Agenda item 3B is the annual report on the discipline workload of the Division of Professional Practices for fiscal year 2021. Some background: to ensure a high level of public confidence in California, teachers and other credentialed public school employees, DPP monitors the moral fitness and professional conduct of credential applicants and holders. The Commission has the authority to discipline an applicant or holder for fitness-related misconduct. DPP collects information concerning alleged misconduct and presents the information to the Committee of Credentials. The committee meets once each month for 3 days and has the legal authority to close an investigation where the evidence does not support the allegations or to recommend discipline where the evidence shows probable cause to believe the allegations. All disciplinary recommendations made to the committee are subject to appeal by the credential holder or applicant or holder and final approval by the Commission. DPP obtains jurisdiction to initiate an investigation of misconduct and or moral fitness when it receives information including, but not limited to, the following: a report of employment action taken by the employing school district as a result of misconduct or while allegations of misconduct are pending, a complaint made under penalty of perjury by someone with firsthand knowledge of misconduct, a report of criminal convictions from the Department of Justice, or self-disclosure on an application for a credential. Division workload. In fiscal year 2021, COVID-19 continued to impact DPP's overall workload. The fiscal year began with a high of 2,568 cases in July 2020 and steadily decreased to a low of 2,018 cases in May 2021 before ending the fiscal year at 2,027. And that's the graph on page 3B2. The number of cases opened. DPP opened 3,492 cases, or an average of 291 cases per month, which is well below the normal range of 400 to 500 cases open per month. In comparison to the previous 5 fiscal years, DPP opened an average of 5,559 cases per year, or an average of 463 cases per month. That was an overall decrease of 1,492 cases that were opened when compared to 2019-20. Where did the cases come from? DPP receives reports of misconduct from several sources, including applicants who self-disclose, school district reports, and records of arrest and prosecution from the Department of Justice. Again, DPP opened fewer cases for the third consecutive fiscal year. In comparison to 2019-2020, decreases by report types included 222 fewer cases involving applications, 573 fewer application and wrap cases, and that included 307 fewer school district cases. Credential status of persons reported to the Commission. New cases opened by designation indicate whether an individual under review is a new or current applicant and or whether the person currently holds a credential. The overall number of open cases by designation also decreased in each of the 4 categories. This includes first-time applicants that decreased by 298 cases and holders, which decreased by 626 cases. What types of misconduct were alleged? Again, each type of misconduct category declined in comparison to the prior fiscal year. The number of alcohol-related cases, offenses remained the highest misconduct type and also included a significant decrease of 515 cases. Other welcome decreases involved sexual child crimes of 150 or non-sexual child crimes of 150 cases and child crime sexual of 104 cases. Cases reviewed by the Committee of Credentials. In fiscal year 2021, DPP completed 1,074 initial review cases, which is the lowest number of LOIs completed in the last 5 years. In March of 2018, management had increased the number of initial review cases presented to the committee for approximately 18 months, which was intended to limit the growth of the overall caseload, as well as limit the number of cases pending before the committee. DPP received the goal as the overall caseload dropped to 2,601 cases. In October 2019, the average number of initial review cases presented to the committee was reduced to approximately 90 to 95 cases per month for the indefinite future. However, in March 2020, COVID-19 closures began, as did the reduction of the overall monthly caseload to the fiscal year 2021. Staff continued to process 90 initial review cases per month during the closures because it was unknown how long the closures would continue or how long the division workload would be impacted. In March 2021, the overall pending caseload had been reduced to a point DPP had fewer than 90 cases pending by the initial review deadline. Therefore, in June 2021, management reduced the monthly initial review cases assigned to the committee to 81 or as many as possible. We anticipate as schools and school districts begin to reopen and applications return to normal levels, the overall workload will increase. The number of initial review cases has a direct impact on the number of formal review cases placed on the agenda for committee review. As you know, formal review is the second stage in the review process of those cases not closed during the initial review. In fiscal year 2021, the number of formal review cases increased due to the cancellation of the March 2020 committee meeting and the cancellation of the monthly appearance cases through the end of fiscal year 2019-2020. The committee reviewed only non-appearance cases because of COVID-19 travel restrictions during April, May, and June meetings. The delayed appearance cases were reviewed during the July, October through October 2021 additional 2-day committee meetings. The delayed cases contributed to the increased number of formal review cases and is apparent at the chart on top of page 3B5. One factor that continues to reduce the overall caseload is the number of consent calendar cases presented to the committee on a monthly basis. The reduced caseload in fiscal year 2021 led to fewer consent calendar cases that needed to be reviewed by the committee. That was a total of 799. How many cases were closed by commission delegations to staff? In 2012 and 2013, the commission adopted policies that delegated authority to staff to close cases that met very specific criteria. For example, the commission adopted a policy that allowed staff to close cases that involved a single alcohol-related offense that did not impact children or schools. Staff closed 781 single alcohol offense cases. Other staff delegations include no jurisdiction cases that involve cases where the commission is unable to obtain formal jurisdiction. By law, the committee must have both initial and formal jurisdiction before the committee can take recommendation for discipline. Staff closed 581 cases based on no formal jurisdiction the delegation. Vehicle code violation cases involve specific minor infractions or misdemeanors under the vehicle code. Violations of this type include driving without a license and driving on suspended license. The exceptions to these policies include the involvement of children, the school property, or adverse publicity impacting the local community. Staff closed 37 cases in 2021. And the expired credential cases involve cases where an educator no longer holds a valid credential and has no applications pending. Cases of this type are flagged in the system and reviewed if the individual submits a new application. Again, the expired credential policy contains 4 exceptions, which include allegations of sexual misconduct, crimes against children, reports filed by school districts, and actions taken by other agencies. Adverse actions fall into 2 categories: mandatory and discretionary actions. Mandatory actions are actions required by statute and include a criminal conviction for a specified sex offense, drug offense, or certain other specified crimes, which requires the commission to mandatorily revoke or deny all credentials. Discretionary actions are actions taken following an order by the commission, in which cases where the committee recommended an adverse action. The committee's recommendation may be accepted by the credential holder or applicant, or it may be appealed on, On appeal, an administrative hearing is held before a final action is taken by the commission. Request for administrative hearing. At the formal review stage, the committee may close its investigation or make a recommendation for adverse action. The person under review has a right to request an administrative hearing. In these cases, the commission is represented by the Office of Attorney General, and the matter is heard by an administrative law judge who issues a proposed decision to the commission. The commission can adopt a proposed decision, reduce the penalty, or reject the proposed decision, call for a transcript. After review of the transcript, the commission can adopt a proposed decision or issue its own decision. The number of open cases assigned to the OEG is represented in the graph on page top of page 3B8. The AG's office adjudicates the commission's cases by administrative hearing, default, withdrawal by an educator, settlement, or decline to prosecute. The second chart on 3B8 summarizes the AG's adjudication of cases for the commission in fiscal year 2021. During the last 2 fiscal years, there has been a reduction of cases adjudicated, and it is my understanding that COVID had an impact on the number of hearings the AG's office was able to complete. DAG requests. DPP's investigation unit was expanded during the 2016-2017 fiscal year and assigned a new task of assisting the AG in clearing out its backlog of commission cases, which has since been accomplished. The investigation unit locates victims and witnesses, obtains affidavits and other types of documents to assist the DAGs in preparing for hearing. The investigation unit began the fiscal year with 19 pending requests. It received 62, completed 65, and ended the year with 16 pending requests. Petitions of reinstatement of previously revoked credentials. The commission hears petitions for reinstatement as required by the Administrative Procedures Act in closed session to determine whether the petitioners whose credentials were revoked are now fit to hold a credential. In a petition for reinstatement, the petitioner has the burden of proof to show that he or she has rehabilitated from the misconduct that led to the revocation. In 2021, the commission granted 18 petitions and denied 17, as shown below. The timeliness of action on cases. In response to the 2011 Bureau of State Audits report, staff followed a methodology used by the state auditor to measure the timeliness of 30 random cases completed during the 2021 fiscal year. While the auditor used a random sample of cases closed by division or reviewed by the committee, staff used a more rigorous sampling using only cases reviewed by the committee. DPP has continued to make significant improvements in timeliness when compared to the findings of the BSA audit. The average time it's taken to open a case was reduced from 128 days to 2. The time it takes the first action on a case was also reduced from 103 days to 7. And the total average time for a case was reduced from 683 to 377 days. Conclusion. In fiscal year 2021, the division continued to process the caseload in a timely manner, which was reduced significantly. Factors that caused reduction included staff completing 90 initial review cases per month through the COC process and receipt of fewer reports of misconduct due to COVID-19 closures and travel restrictions that began in March 2020. Highlights include the following. DPP's monthly caseload ended the fiscal year with 2,027 open cases, well below the normal range of 26 to 2,800 cases. And May's total of 2018 surpassed the previous low of 2,284 cases that were open in July 2015. Division staff completed 1,078 initial review cases, or approximately 90 cases per month. The normal 2 to 3 month pending initial review workload was eliminated, which are cases ready for committee of credentials review. Staff processed an increased number of former review cases, which included the delayed 2019-2020 appearance cases. And the investigative team completed 65 investigative requests for the AG's office and had an ending balance of 60 requests. DPP maintained significant improvements in timeliness when compared to the 2011-2012 BSA audit. Despite the ongoing issues and disruptions by COVID-19, commission staff is pleased to report that DPP continues to fulfill its statutory responsibilities of protecting the safety of school children and the due process of California educators. In addition, commission staff continued its seamless transition of telecommuting and reduced the overall caseload significantly. Therefore, the number of initial review cases presented to the committee will fluctuate at least during the first half of fiscal year 2021-22 due to the elimination of pending cases ready for committee review. Management anticipates the overall caseload will increase when schools and districts begin to reopen and submission of applications and reports of misconduct return to normal levels. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wow. Mr. Gonzalez, I forget how much data is accumulated in the course of a single year for your annual report. And I'm sure there'll be questions from commissioners, but first let's ask our recording secretary if there are any public speakers for item 3B.
We have not received any requests for public comment on this item.
What's going on with the public that they're not interested in this vital information? Commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner Harwood.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. I want to echo Commissioner Cooney's comment that it isn't just an impressive amount of information that you provide us, Mr. Gonzalez. And I do maybe also following on Commissioner Cooney's question about why do we not have public comments, I do think it's important for us to just mark this time in the calendar when we have a chance to talk a little bit more publicly about this really important aspect of the work that the commission does, that for important reasons of privacy and due process, we do behind closed doors. We get that excellent report from you every month on the workload. It's very helpful to have this annual report, and I think I just want to emphasize so that how important this, one of the 3 pillars of work that this commission does, that's so important for protection of our school children as well as protection of the profession. So thank you so much for the work that goes into this report. I know that it is significant. I have just a couple of quick comments and a question. I wanted to make the overall comment again about how pleased I am to see that the DPP continues to have an excellent record of timeliness in terms of dealing with cases that come before this, and has maintained the momentum that was kicked off from that 2011 to 2012 audit, and that we see that year after year now, and month after month, in terms of keeping up the level of urgency of processing these very important cases. There's urgency, of course, because we have protective reasons why we need to make sure that these cases are moved through quickly. And then there's urgency, of course, because we want to make sure that people whose conduct are being reviewed have the benefit of having that conduct reviewed as quickly as possible. So I really appreciate seeing that continued movement. And I also wanted to just make 2 compliments on policy or program choices that have been made over the last 4 or 5 years to make sure that backlogs don't increase, or to eliminate backlogs. And you noted those both in your report. One was the expansion of the investigative unit, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, that has really ramped up the commission's ability to move cases forward itself without having to rely on outside investigators from the Attorney General's office. And then also the decision in, I think it was 2018 to 19, to materially increase the number of initial review cases that were sent to the committee, to make sure that we could not have any backlog of pending cases. And I know that we were able to achieve elimination of any pool of pending cases. And I just wanted to point those out because I really appreciate the work that you and the department do, thinking in terms of policy and programmatic changes that you can make in order to make sure that the process is as efficient and thorough as possible. So I appreciate your pointing this out. I had just a quick question about the comment that is made in the report on the top of 3B3 that says, unfortunately, it is expected that reports will increase as schools and districts begin to reopen. Is that commenting on the unfortunate circumstance that as educators are back in the classroom, we expect more opportunities for conduct that we need to review that will end up in front of us? Or is that referring more to that we expect that districts that may not have reported everything that needs to be reported to us will be reporting more thoroughly? Or is it a comment on both of those things?
It's really a comment on both of those things. It's unfortunate that we have to even have these types of reports coming in. Nobody wants to see misconduct being reported or that it occur and have to be reported. But we expect that that's going to happen when schools reopen and natural, things occur in the school system.
Okay, thank you for expanding on that. And I'm going to ask a question I ask frequently, but I always just want to check in. Do you anticipate any capacity problems in your department if there is an increase or surge in cases that are reported in the initial cases that you need to open?
We're kind of starting to see applications increase, and as long as we're well staffed like we are now, we should be fine. And if that total starts to increase significantly above that 26 to 2,800 range, we have the staffing for that. But we'll increase the initial review cases like we did before to the 105 range if we have to. But okay. At this point, we've planned for that now that we've been through that process. but we're ready for it if it does occur.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would be remiss if I didn't include in my thanks to DPP also the thanks for our Committee on Credentials, who keeps this process moving through their really yeoman's work that they do every month. So thank you to that committee as well.
Thank you. I'll let the staff know.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hartwig, for saying pretty much everything I hope to say and often share with the commissioners, because this work is so important. It takes quite a while as a commissioner, speaking of my own experience, to learn all the moving parts from initial review and how those cases flow into the department and get picked up. The investigators are not only real people, but really good people who care a lot about their work, as does Mr. Gonzalez. And Mr. Gonzalez, it's been how long now since the Office of General Counsel has been separated from the Department of Professional Practices?
It's been a couple of years now, so it's a learning in progress still.
It is, and it's a close relationship. I know that you have an integral relationship as cases move along, but so much work is done on the ground before General Counsel gets involved with the processes of formal review and beyond. So I want to add to Commissioner Hartwig's compliments of all the hard work that is being done in your department under your direction. And I know it takes a lot of effort to keep reporting to the Commission, but we are interested. The fact that we're not asking a lot of questions, I think, is often because we're very confident that the department, as Commissioner Hartwig indicated, one of the pillars of our function is being handled well. So if I only say this one more time, I sincerely mean it. I'm very much appreciative of all the work that's being done.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
I think that Commissioner Cardenas has his hand up.
Does he? Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Cardenas.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. And I just wanted to just reiterate what Commissioner Hartwig had mentioned as far as the work that DPP has been doing. And being a new commissioner, it's been very eye-opening and very enlightening to see that the work that's progressively improved after looking at the 2011 report from state audits. And it's just significant improvement that has occurred, especially under these conditions and having to work from home. And the thing that really stands out to me, though, is what do we do with this data, right? When we see this data and we see that a lot of our educators are struggling either with alcohol or struggling with some type of substance abuse, what can we do as a commission, or what is in our purview to assist some of our new educators, to educate some of our new educators that are coming into the system, to really help them and potentially help them avoid some of these disciplinary issues in the future? And I think about a lot of our new hires that we've had within the last 3 or 4 years, how there's other job opportunities that they have and they end up leaving and they didn't realize that they now have job abandonment and their credentials are being held, right? And this is pretty new for a lot of folks. I know that sometimes HR does a really good job within districts, but is there anything within our purview where we can continue to educate a lot of our new credential holders? And the other thing that I worry about is in education, I think last year and year before, we had talked about how low our discipline numbers were, right? We had not seen discipline because we were at home. But I think I have this fear that we could potentially see this huge spike of disciplinary issues. And I think back to Commissioner Hartwig asking the question about capacity. I'm happy to hear that we have such a high capacity that we could deal with. But again, there is a concern that there is this lull right now of disciplinary action that can immediately spike. And I know we've seen it in the school systems where we've had to deal with issues right away, so soon and so early on. that could potentially be an issue that DPP deals with in the future. So there's some comments and just some concerns that I see, but I just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez, for this report. Again, all of this information is really eye-opening for myself, and also very hopeful because we have such a huge population of our educators doing the right thing and doing right by students. And I know sometimes people look at this data and say, oh my goodness, this is so high and can get disenfranchised. But the reality is the majority of our educators are doing really good work. And so that's really great to see. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Cardenas. Any other hands? Don't see any. Does anybody else see any? Okay, well, we've got more to do in closed session. So this will be our second for information item only. And I will recess the Professional Practices Committee. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for all of that work and data and for all of your comments, commissioners. I would like to now, next is the Legislative Committee. Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo, will you please convene the committee?
Yes, okay. Let me pull up the screens that I need here. Okay. I now convene the Legislative Committee. The committee has one item before it today. We will announce when the public comment period is open following the presentation of each agenda item. Members of the public who wish to comment will be asked to notify the meeting moderator in the following ways. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember that the Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the US toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling out the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Item 4A, status of legislation. This is an information item that will be presented by Sasha Horwitz. Mr. Horwitz, will you begin, please?
Thank you, Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo. Good afternoon, Sasha Horwitz, Governmental Relations and Public Affairs Manager. Today's legislative update provides an overview of the significant policy proposals that were enacted as part of the 2021-22 State Budget Agreement and other legislation for the 2021 legislative year. The legislature is currently recessed until January. It adjourned the first year of the 2-year 21-22 legislative session on September 10th, and the governor has until October 10th to sign or veto the bills on his desk. Since the last commission meeting, the legislature made late in the session amendments to the budget and passed a second education trailer bill. Both of these have been signed and are currently in effect. SB 170 was the Budget Bill Junior, which made a number of substantial changes to the state budget passed in June. The change most relevant to the commission's work was the addition of expenditure authority to hire new staff. As you'll recall, this year, the budget gave the commission nearly $500 million for new and expanded grant programs. Unfortunately, none of that money was available for staff support. SB 170 permits the commission to use existing revenue to hire 5 full-time staff, 2 to support outreach, contracting, and administration of grants, 2 to support updates to teacher testing related to literacy and dyslexia, and 1 to provide administrative and contracting support through the Fiscal and Business Services Office. The second TK-12 education trailer bill was AB 167 and included various cleanup provisions to fix drafting errors, clarify bills, and address state needs that arose since the fiscal year began. With the passage of the previous education trailer bill in July, the commission became responsible for implementing the new basic skills coursework options. In doing so, it quickly became clear that two small provisions as originally drafted needed to be revised for the bill to work as intended. The first was the requirement that coursework from an IHE on the quarter system would have to be in an equivalent number of credits as coursework on the semester system. This was being interpreted to mean courses had to be 4.5 credits long, making it difficult to apply in practice. So the language was clarified to allow 4-credit courses to count toward the coursework option. The second change was made to clarify that both credential programs and the Commission can determine basic skills proficiency when achieved through a combination of qualifying coursework and examinations. Previously, only a credential program was authorized to make this determination. Next, due to the difficulty finding substitutes in the current climate, a rule was relaxed so that through July 1st of 2022, subs may serve in the same classroom for 60 cumulative days. This change will help provide continuity in classrooms. For single subject, multiple subject, and career technical education subs, this extends the 30-day limit to 60 days. For education specialist subs, this extends the 20-day limit to 60 days. And again, these expire on July 1st of next year. The final trailer bill amendment I'll discuss fixes an unintended consequence of a bill passed in 2018 known as the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Disparities Reduction Act, which required various state agencies, including the Commission, to collect voluntary self-identification information pertaining to sexual orientation and gender identity, whatever the agency collects demographic data as to the ancestry or ethnic origins of Californians. The problem with the law as written was that it required the Commission to collect this information from intermediary entities and not from individual candidates, leaving the Commission in the position of asking preparation programs, grant recipients, induction programs, and sometimes even employers to request this information from their participants. The amendment now matches the bill's intent by instead requiring the Commission to only collect the information directly from candidates as part of a credential application. The information is voluntary, and while the Commission is required to ask, candidates are not under any obligation to provide their sexual orientation, gender identity, ancestry, or ethnicity. Further, the Commission cannot disclose personally identifiable information collected in this manner. Now shifting gears to standalone legislation, there were 4 bills where the Commission took positions this year. As you know, AB 312 and AB 437, the bills to create coursework options for demonstrating basic skills or subject matter competency, did not move forward this year because nearly identical proposals were enacted as part of the budget. As such, they have both been effective since the budget trailer bill was signed on July 9th of this year. AB 320 by Assemblymember Medina is called Teacher Preparation Regionally Accredited Institutions, and this Commission sponsored this bill. It updates the definition of regionally accredited institution of higher education throughout the Commission's Education Code sections. A degree from a regionally accredited institution of higher education is required for a credential. This measure clarifies that a candidate who graduated from an institution in the process of being accredited is eligible to earn a credential if the institution completes accreditation within 5 years. AB 320 is currently in the governor's hands. The bill received unanimous support throughout every vote in the legislature. The Commission took an oppose unless amended position on AB 898 by Assemblymember Lee, Criminal Records Automatic Conviction Record Relief. The bill was signed and there was no signing message. We'll be working with the administration and legislative leadership to craft a solution to the Penal Code section in the next session before that section goes into effect on August 1st, 2022. Moving to bills the Commission monitored but did not take positions on. AB 815, School Nurses Credentialing, authorizes LEA-based program sponsors to develop and submit for Commission approval school nurse credentialing programs. Currently, these programs, which serve candidates who already have nursing licenses, may only be offered by institutions of higher education. To be approved, programs would need to go through the exact same review process and be held to the same standards as IHE-based school nurse credential programs. Late amendments to the bill limited these programs to LEAs with enrollment of 40,000 or more students. Effectively, this means it was limited to the 19 largest LEAs in California. The statute is currently unclear whether a county office of education with over 40,000 students is eligible to offer the program. As of this morning, the bill is on the governor's desk awaiting signature. The next bill, SB 488, Teacher Credentialing Reading Instruction, makes changes to the Reading Instruction Competence Assessment, or RECA statute. The bill would, in alignment with the current English Language Arts, English Language Development Framework adopted by the State Board of Education, add effective means of teaching literacy and evidence-based means of teaching foundational reading skills to the minimum requirements for a multiple or single subject credential. Starting September 1st, 2022, these requirements would need to be included in the standards of program quality and effectiveness for the preliminary multiple, education specialist, and single subject English Language Arts credentials. Additional standards would be required starting September 1st, 2024, including satisfactory completion of research-based comprehensive reading instruction, direct systemic explicit phonics, and for multiple subject credentials, the study of integrated method for teaching language arts. Starting July 1st, 2025, the RECA examination would no longer be required. Instead, the commission would be required to approve a teaching performance assessment that assesses all candidates for competence in instruction and literacy, including but not limited to evidence-based methods of teaching foundational reading skills. These must be aligned to the ELA/ELD framework, teaching performance expectations, and program standards of quality and effectiveness. As of this morning, SB 488 is on the governor's desk awaiting signature. Staff monitored 3 other bills this year. AB 498, the Computer Science Action Initiative, did not move forward as a standalone bill. However, a version of the proposal was enacted as part of the budget, and the commission is administering this $15 million grant program now. AB 22, Childcare, Preschool Programs, and Transitional Kindergarten Enrollment Funding, would have complemented the transitional kindergarten extension adopted in the state budget. However, all the relevant language was passed as part of the budget, and the stripped-down version of the bill was held in committee. Finally, AB 520 by Assemblymember Gibson, Teacher Retention, California Diversifying the Teacher Workforce Grant Program, was pulled from consideration by the author after the necessary funding was moved to the Educator Excellence Block Grant. With that, I've concluded my presentation on this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Horwitz, thank you so much for your detailed overview. We are going to open up for public comments. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Madam Chair Sloan.
I'm just going to give my quick appreciation for the way in which this agenda item was organized. I don't know if that was you, Mr. Horowitz, but it was very helpful to have the budget, then the 2020 went into 2021, and in order it made it very understandable. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? I'm looking for virtual hands. Okay, seeing none. And I'm telling you, Mr. Horwitz, you're a California government teacher. Thank you so much for your detailed overview. This is an information item and no action is necessary. Mr. Horwitz, thanks again. And having no additional items today, I now adjourn the Legislative Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo. Next is the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. Commissioner Klatt, will you please convene the committee?
Yes, thank you. Item 5A is update on the enacted, oops, excuse me, I skipped ahead. I need to back up and do our boilerplate, how to raise your hand and speak. I apologize. I now convene the meeting of the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The committee has one item before it today. We will announce when the public comment period is open following the presentation of each agenda item. Members of the public who wish to comment will be asked to notify the meeting moderator in the following ways. Individuals who joined the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember that the Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. Individuals who joined the meeting via the US toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling out the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Item 5A is update on the enacted fiscal year 2021-22 budget. It is an information item. Vivian Sue will present this item. Ms. Sue, will you please begin?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So today I will be providing a brief update of the 21-22 enacted budget. Overall, the Commission was granted $53,559,000 for the fiscal year 2021-22. Some notable changes is, first off, the first notable change is a $20 million one-time general fund for the Commission to waive fees for first-time credential applicants. The next notable change is $2 million one-time general fund for competitive grants to teacher preparation programs to update program curriculum and course offerings to align the Common Trunk teacher performance expectations and the updated education specialist teacher performance expectations and include pedagogy on dyslexia. Next, we have the reimbursements overall of $2.058 million. $308,000 of which is for teacher assignment monitoring, $1.25 million to continue the work related to the preschool development grant renewal, and $1 million one-time reimbursement authority over 2 years to support a Gates Foundation grant that will support an expansion of the Commission's capacity to gather teacher workforce data. Table 1 on page 2 shows a breakdown by fund of our total appropriation. Next, we have the Commission administer grants. This was previously covered in the legislative update at the last Commission meeting, but I did want to touch on them. The first is $125 million for the California Classified School Employees Teacher Credentialing Program, $350 million for Teacher Residency Program, $15 million Computer Science Supplementary Authorizations Grant, and $1.7 million to Tulare County Office of Education to administer the Center on Teaching Careers. Next, I'll cover the Commission resources. The Commission's total resources include reserve balances in both funds, the Teacher Credentials Fund and the Test Development and Administration Account. This revenue is generated through exam fees and credential fees required for certification. As expected, we saw lower revenues due to the effects of COVID-19. As testing centers expanded their capacity and some schools reopened in the spring, the Commission saw a slight uptick in revenue. Commission staff are hopeful that the uptick in revenue will continue in the current fiscal year and revenue will return to levels similar to fiscal year 18-19. Table 2 shows a 3-year revenue trend for comparison. In conclusion, given these unprecedented times, the Commission's leadership will continue to closely monitor incoming revenue as well as expenditures to ensure that the agency lives within its means and to protect the longevity of our funds reserves. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sue. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? And my screen is small. I'm looking for hands. But if I don't see you, You can wave, do your virtual hand. Oh, I think I saw a hand go up. Yes, Commissioner. Let's see.
Martinez.
Martinez, there you are. It's so, I don't have my normal screen set
That's
up.
okay.
Everyone is so tiny.
And I'm with you. I'm on my 13-inch laptop too, so I hear you. I just have a clarifying question about the $2 million one-time general fund for competitive grants to teacher preparation programs to update program curriculum and course offerings to align with the Common Trunk teacher performance expectations in the updated, that one. So can you say a little bit more about that general fund specifically for the for updating the program curriculum? So is that funding going to the teacher prep programs then, or where's the $2 million going to?
Vivian, I'll answer that one. So Commissioner Martinez, yes, that money will be going to teacher preparation programs. The Ed Code was not very specific as to, how we distribute the money to preparation programs or what's expected at the end. So those are things that we're looking at right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. I celebrate these budget allocations and celebrate that one going to our teacher prep programs and appreciate the clarification.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. And I fixed my monitors a little bit, so I can see more. I can see you now. Any other commissioners? I see Commissioner Gross. You have a question or comment?
I had a question. I know I'm still catching up to everything as a new commissioner, but I was curious if I could just get a little blurb on what the Center on Teaching Careers is in Tulare.
Sure. A couple of years ago, the Tulare County Office of Education was given, I believe, a $5 million grant to create the Center for Teaching Careers. And what they've done is created a website for people who are interested in becoming teachers, and they have some resources for that. But really, they've been spending, I think, a greater part of their effort putting together virtual career fairs and teaching districts how to do the career fairs themselves. Amy Rising and I met with them yesterday. Their next project that they're looking at doing is creating a virtual academy to help provide professional development. And going back to the ECE item, that may be something, just one strand that could help address how do we provide training in rural districts.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. And I see Chair Sloan has her hand up.
I just wanted to comment on the tremendous budget that we have before us to do the work that we have to do. And many of you probably do not know the excellent work that your executive director and her staff do behind the scenes to inform and advocate for what our field needs and what the commission needs in order to meet those needs. And I tell you, she is brilliant. And I just wanted you to know that. I know you already know that, but I wanted you to know that.
In all fairness, I just have to say that the people who've just presented to you, Vivian Sue and Sasha Horwitz, are they contribute significantly to the work that we are able to do behind the scenes. But thank you, Madam Chair, for that. I take credit with the staff for that compliment. Thank you.
All right, on that feel good comment right there. And I think we all echo our appreciation for the work that our executive director and the entire staff do. Any other commissioners, comments, questions? Not seeing any other virtual hands or waving hands. Okay, this is an information item and no action is needed. So thank you, Ms. Sue. This concludes the business before the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. I'd like to reconvene the general session and move to item 1H, new business. The bi-monthly agenda is presented for information. Next on the agenda is audience presentations. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or by pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any audience presentations?
We have no requests for an audience presentation.
All right, then, given that, I want to thank commissioners and stakeholders for changing schedules to be with us today in our one-day meeting on September 30th. And I think we did good work in our one day here. We will now recess for I will now recess the general session, and members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will reconvene after the closed session. Commissioners, please go directly to the Zoom link for our closed session, and we will see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
I had a quick question. I apologize. Am I recessed or because I didn't get it? Sorry.
You are. Thank you. You are. We are going.
Thank you, Adriana.
Yes. So we will see you next time. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, guys. It was so nice to see everybody. Thank you. Bye.
See you again. Bye-bye. Okay. Commissioners, checking if we have everyone back. Here we go.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to check. I'd like to reconvene general session and move to agenda item 1I, report of closed session items. Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo, can you read the report, please?
Yes. Closed session items for September 30th, 2021. Staff briefed the commission on the case of Russell Charles Ernest versus Commission on Teacher Credentialing, does 1 through 20, and no reportable action was taken. The commission rejected the proposed decision in the matter of Samuel, Kwaku, Aguier, Fosu, Godman, and called for the transcript. The commission voted to make a technical correction to and adopt the proposed decision in the matter of Donald Hawkins. The commission voted to make a technical correction to and adopt the proposed decision in the matter of Janae Terrell. And that concludes this report.
Thank you. All right. Well, I would now adjourn the September 2021 meeting of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Thank you again for attending, and thank you staff for scrambling to get this done a week early. And our next meeting is on December 9th and 10th, 2021. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and week until we see you in September. I mean, December. We're in September.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Bye-bye. Here,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.